time.
Yeah.
Conduit bonds are bonds where the city issues debt for certain types of public uses that Congress has decided are good uses.
Yeah.
The city loans the proceeds to the borrower. In this instance, it'd be a nonprofit, St. Therese. And then St. Therese has the responsibility to repay the debt. And our job as bond counsel is to protect the city and to conclude provisions in the documents, making it clear that this is a conduit bond issue and that the city's credit rating isn't impacted. The city's, no bondholder can go after the city to get, make you levy taxes to pay back the debt like you would with a general obligation bond for the city's, city hall or other road improvements or other projects. And, indemnify the city for any future costs. So the documents are designed to pass that risk on. And, one of the later conversations I think that Jessica raised about a conduit policy is another way of protecting the city and making sure that there's some cities include limits so that not small investors can't buy the publicly offered bonds unless they have a good credit rating. But they really, conduit bonds, especially as the way St. Therese is proposing, really works like a bank loan to St. Therese. St. Therese is going to be the entity paying back the bonds. The St. Teresa's Bank is going to ask for a mortgage and other security, probably a guarantee of St. Therese, parent corporation to sort of backstop the debt. And most, the bank likely has done a number of other tax-exempt issuances, and they understand that when they're buying the bond, the documents all say that St. Therese is the entity that's going to be repaying the debt, and that they're sophisticated enough that they understand that they can't go after the city, and that it's really just a financing mechanism to allow St. Therese to get the same interest rates that the city gets.
Mr. Mayor, one more question and I'll be quiet. When did this start? When did our government start this option of borrowing to nonprofits, this kind of thing?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it's actually been around for a really long time,
Okay.
at least till the iteration of the tax code before, I don't remember, it's sometimes in the 50s was the tax code prior to 1986.
Even before I was born?
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
So in the 1950s, there was a lot more that could be financed. You could finance all sorts of things. And then in 1986, they did the revisions to the sort of the major rewrite of the tax code, and they limited to what we're talking about in modern times, which is like really affordable housing, for-profit affordable housing, nonprofit developments like hospitals, charter schools, private schools, senior living facilities, some small manufacturing facilities, and certain sort of solid waste disposal facilities. So they sort of have narrowed what can use the financing in the 80s. And also sort of is our role in bond counsel is not just to protect the city, but to as far as liability and indemnification provisions about if the project goes bad, but also we're doing all the tax due diligence. We're making sure that St. Therese is complying with the tax code. The St. Therese will make representations. We'll ask for a lot of their documents to make sure they're going to do everything to make sure that these bonds continue to be tax exempt. And St. Therese has their own policy that they use for their other facilities. They've done them before, conduit bonds, so they understand what the requirements of the tax code are.
I got a million other questions running through my head. I'm not going to ask any more, though.
You free to if you want.
Yeah, I'm good right now.
Okay. So in terms of setting that number for a policy,
I think at the policy level, I would do 3/4, and I would be okay, I think, with 0.2 or is it 0.2? 0.2 for St. Therese, like he was talking about?
He was saying 0.1, I thought, in this case.
I thought he said they had budgeted 0.2.
can you clarify?
Yeah, Calvin, do you mind clarifying? I think I had heard what Councilor Nichols had heard, that it budgeted 0.2, but originally was proposing 0.1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we had proposed a flat fee, which was very close to about 10, in fact, it was just a little over 10 basis points. What we have budgeted is just a little under 0.2 or 20 basis points. So I did quote both. What's been offered is approximately 10 basis points. What we had budgeted in our total project budget, or what we currently have, is about 0.2 or 20 basis points.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'd be comfortable splitting that. Oh,
0.15.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that,
Yeah, thank
those
you.
numbers and in the plans and stuff. To be above board like that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, so in terms of process here, do we want to take a vote on approving the resolution for issuance of conduit revenue bonds at that rate? And then we can have some further policy discussion, direction for staff to formulate a full policy.
Going forward, not
Going forward,
specific to St. Therese.
Right. Okay. And I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2022-115, Option 1, which was the issuance of conduit revenue bonds.
Just to clarify, that would be in the amount, principal amount not to exceed 20 basis, or 1.5 basis point.
Correct.
15.
Or 15.
Yeah, it's not
1.15.
1.5. Yeah.
There we go,
Yep.
sorry, 1.5 of that total, yeah.
Correct. Yep. So that would be the motion, or I'll make the motion. Do you have a second?
I think I should second, because Dean is
Fair
still
enough.
thinking things through.
Okay, we got a second. Any further discussion? Nope.
No,
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll go aye.
Okay.
It's just calling a public hearing at this point.
Yeah.
So it's-
Yep, nope,
Then regarding some of the
I'll
bigger
keep
picture.
trying to convince myself to be a little bit more firm on that. Thank you for
Yeah,
all of
appreciate
the
it.
input. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, St. Therese.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Just so I, oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Just from a timing perspective, we've spoken about, and the resolution does allow for staff to work with our bond counsel to get the timeline formalized and get those
Perfect.
notices out. We don't have the date set as of right now, but we will work through that and get that scheduled and noticed.
Sounds good. And regarding the bigger picture, future policy, Jeremy, you had mentioned the 0.75 is maybe a
Starting point?
Initial starting point with the language for being able to negotiate.
Perfect.
Kind of going down the list of points in the staff report, whether we should charge a fee for refunding or refinancing, I would say yes. That seems pretty standard from what I can find, that there is some fee there. I don't know what exactly that number would be.
Sure.
Let's see here. For item 3, I honestly don't know. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. For the denomination requirement, or requiring that bonds have a specific credit rating.
What risk does that avoid?
Dina, if you could, thank you.
Sure. I think that's really a risk for protecting citizens that might buy the bonds. Not necessarily, I don't think it impacts the city's liability at all, but there's sort of a perception issue with, a bond deal going bad, and maybe someone in the city said, oh, there's a project in the city, I'd really like to buy these bonds. There's $5,000 denominations, and there might be, maybe it doesn't have as high a credit rating as another deal. And so it's a way to sort of make sure that the riskier bonds are only being purchased by sophisticated investors. I would say that not all cities have that requirement, but it's, a fairly common thing to see. I think Minneapolis and St. Paul and a lot of the bigger cities have it, and a lot of the smaller cities too. You'll see, I think the couple of models I provided Jessica had that sort of requirement in there, and I pulled those from cities of varying sizes, so.
Then I would encourage that we keep in line with that and probably have some language in there to that effect. Then, let's see here. Application fee, that's something that, at least the ones I came across, seemed pretty common. It wasn't a huge fee, but it was specifically for an application, and it wasn't refundable, wasn't deductible from the final fee either. So I think the example I found, I don't know if it was Maple Grove or someone nearby, that was like a $3,000 application fee. So something along those lines I would support. And yeah, in terms of what the city wants to require in an application,
What the IRS requires.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that.
for sure that.
It's already defined, is what you're saying.
At least asking what, and to that point of the negotiation, if they do want to negotiate, indicating that, so we kind
Yeah.
of know
I like
if
that.
they want to deviate from the policy. And with that, that fee for the application fee, that could be something we'll be looking at next year's fee schedule. So
Perfect.
rather than doing an amendment just for this, or actually with park dedication, we'll be looking at a fee schedule amendment. So we'll add that at the next time, but maybe not do a special
So,
fee
yeah, I don't think we're gonna see
in
another one of these between now and then, so.
the next month or two.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you. And we'll move on to, get on the right page, 9C, which is City Park Remaster Phase 1.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and Jessica Christensen Buck is joining us virtually. Hopefully, whatever we did to the speaker system is now working. She's gonna
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yay!
Again.
Welcome.
We fixed the IT problem, or Calvin did, I should say. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for letting me attend virtually. I appreciate your flexibility with this. Jess, I have a PowerPoint saved in the folder. If you wouldn't mind pulling that up, thank you. So this first slide you'll see is just a grand overview of the park project as a whole. The highlighted portions are the Phase 1 amenities. So next slide. So like I said, the highlighted portions are the Phase 1 amenities. Included in that are the 2 stormwater management ponds for runoff and wetlands and all of that. 6 pickleball courts, a full playground that would replace the one that is currently there, a splash pad, bathroom, changing room, picnic shelter that would be attached to that splash pad to keep everything kind of contained in that area. 343 bituminous parking stalls. So currently we only have gravel parking at the park. We do currently have people parking in the grass as well. So I think lined parking lots are going to be a much easier option for folks. We've got a new open skate rink, a new hockey rink, a volleyball court that would replace the one that we currently have, a new tennis court that would also replace the one that we currently have, but it would be in a separate area, as well as a basketball court. Next slide. So I had mentioned the bathroom, changing room, and picnic shelter. Attached to this slide are the Rogers version of the building. Ours would be similar in the sense of how many it kind of holds, except we would double the size so that it would be more equivalent to the pavilion that we currently have at the park. Staff has proposed that we try and keep the current pavilion as well, just that we have 2 options. But it sounds like from an engineering standpoint that might be trickier, but we'll know if we continue forward and we get additional drawing. But this building would include an indoor programming space, so this could be rented out for birthday parties. This could be used internally for programs, which currently we don't have that option, as we don't have the space for it post-remodel. Additionally, we would have that pavilion area that could be utilized from either side, so both the splash pad side as well as by the public in general, and then a few bathrooms, some changing rooms, so that when kiddos do get there, they don't have to show up in their swimsuits and they can kind of bounce back and forth between the playground and the splash pad. Next slide. Additionally, we're basing the tennis and basketball courts on Wyndham Knoll Park in Eden Prairie. So with pickleball growing as quickly as it is, it just makes more sense to have the tennis separate, as future projections show that tennis is a dying sport and pickleball is rapidly increasing. So we've got them kind of proposed right next to each other, similar to that. Next slide. We do have 30% indirect costs. That's not just discrepancies, but that's street and parking lot lighting, landscaping, irrigation, small park amenities such as benches, bike racks, drinking fountains, shaded areas. Just kind of covers all of those added bonus items that might not be shown on the plan. Next slide. So amenities that would have to be replaced either way if we proceed with phase 1 of the park project or just left it as is include the tennis courts. They have a lot of cracks currently, so they are in desperate need of repair. The playground, which is getting to be quite dated and close to past industry standard, as well as new hockey rinks as the boards are starting to give out. Upon talking with Public Works in the past few years, they keep replacing the ones that they can to make it work, but it is definitely going to be time pretty soon here to replace those. Next slide. And then the amenities gained, phase 1 actually would give us a lot more items that we don't currently have, which include usable tennis courts. Like I said, they are currently usable. However, there are numerous cracks. We have heard from Parks and Trails, as well as residents, that there are many cracks that make it difficult. There's some safety concerns that have been brought up. They're not quite to that extent. However, it would be in good conscience to replace it soon. We'd also gain a splash pad, which we don't currently have, nor do we have one in the city. Basketball and pickleball as well, we don't have in the city. We'd gain that paved parking, which I think would be incredible to have at the park because, like I said, people are parking in the grass, and that is not great for it, as well as bituminous meandering trails throughout the park that would be a little more user-friendly rather than just the paths that kind of go to the ball fields. And then next slide. And that is the extent of my slides. So I would be more than happy to answer any questions. I know that Jess is also happy to help as needed, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Any questions?
Yep.
Go for it.
If I could, good work on this, Jess. My only real question is the Schneider Field and the Little League field down there in the southeast corner, so to speak. What happens to all of them, or that just turns into just open space?
So as part of phase 1, they would remain as usable in the park. Moving forward in future phases, it would turn out to be more of an open space, like a green area, with meandering trails through it. So it would be very friendly for special events or any programming that the city would like to run. So it opens up a lot more doors for future revenue opportunities, more opportunities for residents to get involved.
And then the blue dash line around this, is that just defining the area, or what is that blue dashed line?
So currently the creek runs through the park, so
Got it.
to move that would be very expensive. So the proposition is to just leave it as is.
Say, Jessica?
Yes.
You mentioned Bituminous and Wood Chip Trail. How much of that is in phase 1?
So all of the darker gray lines, so they're kind of a charcoal color. Not the lighter ones, those would be future phases, but the darker lines would be the bituminous trails. Upon further investigation with Stantec, we determined that the cost of the wood chip trails would be very similar to bituminous trails unless we're taking out a bunch of trees. So they would be an option for future phases. However, with the current phases, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have wood chip trails going through there.
Okay. I was wondering, I know this is going to be kind of a nexus for the Diamond Lake Regional Trail, but I know that we're not quite at the point with Three Rivers where they're ready to do anything specific. Have we had any initial conversations with them about whether they'd be interested in trying to route that trail from the south around the west side, where we have a lot of those treed areas, and make that the source of those nature paths, and kind of come around the north?
I haven't spoken with them specifically about that part of the route. It certainly is a potential conversation. It would probably have to come in through that southern portion, as I believe you guys are having an agenda item in the future about a property off of Larkin. So it comes in from the south near that southwest parking lot, the 250 parking spot, and then it exits over by Rush Creek Reserve.
Yeah, I think we've seen it sketched coming through that, the easterly side, which is fine, but I feel like it would be great if they were willing to make this more of a nature trail, at least until the rest of the park develops in 15 years or so, whatever it's going to be, because there is a lot of really beautiful area off on the west. So when we have those conversations, it'd be great if you could maybe steer them in that direction.
Absolutely. And I think that they would be incredibly open to that, as they do enjoy a nice nature trail. They tend to prefer that over going through development that's right next to houses and probably.
And we have a lot of that.
I don't know that accepting phase one would preclude us from making that change at a later date.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think that we, because it would be outside of what's in phase one, and we could
Could be
certainly look at
independent.
doing that with our discussions with them.
Okay. And then at the Parks and Trails meet, I think there was a question whether the existing picnic shelter could be preserved, and we didn't know at that time. Do we know if we would end up with 2 picnic shelters, or if we have to tear down the existing one?
So it sounds like, upon talking with Stantec, that we would likely have to tear it down. However, once we have additional, more specific grading, we're going to inform them that we'd like to try and keep it if possible, if that's something that you guys are interested in as well.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to have 2.
I would tend to agree, because we have seen an increase in the number of reservations that have been coming in for the pavilion. So I think it would be beneficial to have both. The one for the splash pad, I would envision is going to have a lot of birthday parties and things of that nature, more relative to children. And I found that a lot of the pavilion reservations are more community gatherings or older birthday parties that aren't necessarily directed at kiddos.
And then my last item, I'll continue to plug. When we do the playgrounds, I would love to see some of those be under awnings or other shade features, just because it helps with those hot summer months with the little kids.
I did try and mention that we would have shade structures, so that was covered as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I'll just mention, I'm glad to see a lot of the, or all of the items that were kind of up for discussion at the last Parks and Trails meeting, the basketball, tennis, I think it was one of the, I don't know if hockey was included.
Volleyball.
Always and volleyball are all included in this. I think with the cost being maybe like 160,000 for all of that together, versus the utility of the, that it gives us in the park with different types of amenities, I think it's completely worth it. And in 10 years, we'll not be able to get those courts for $160,000 anyway. So I think it makes sense to do it now.
Would it be one volleyball court, or is that block going to contain a few?
That would be one. I would argue that that's probably sufficient. We don't get a lot of reservations. I think in the 4.5 years I've been here, we've maybe gotten one. With Mama G's down the road, they have a pretty extensive volleyball set of volleyball leagues. So I would imagine that leagues might not be in our future, but it's a nice recreational activity for people to participate in.
My only other request would be, as a lifelong tennis player and big fan, that you find a different term to call tennis other than a dying sport.
I apologize.
But other than that, great job.
Thank you.
A less used activity.
Yes,
I
that
like
is a
that.
beautiful way to put it. I will bring that to the conference when people call it a dying sport.
I have one more question,
Go for it.
Mr. Mayor. The path that stubs into Bass Lake Road, County Road 10, is that going under 10?
So that would be a discussion likely with Three Rivers on how they would envision the crossing. That was one that could be a proposed difference in grading. Along 50, though, is set as a different graded level, so either above or below, so a tunnel or overpass.
Okay,
But at this time, the one off of 10 is just proposed as a discussion point.
okay.
You might want to land north of that intersection with Rush Creek Reserve's main drag, so you've got some landing space for a bridge or a tunnel or whatever. But We can fine tune that later.
If you go too much north, you're intruding on that private property there, so,
I just mean like here-ish.
yeah. Yeah, there's already trying to remember what all drains underneath there and stuff.
That's
Isn't
stuff we
there
can-
stormwater that goes there now, that goes under
It
10?
used to, it got, it's not going anymore. was
That
part
got
of
blocked
it
off when
happened.
everything else got
Yeah.
done? Okay, all right.
So there used to be a culvert there, not anymore. I think we just built a safety island there with the finishing of 10 in the Rush Creek project. So I think at least on 10 there, my understanding is it would probably be that's why we built that safety island, so that you would be able to cross 10.
So it's a
Maybe-
crosswalk
maybe
on
long
10.
term, yeah, I think short term it would be a crosswalk on 10 with a safety island, that was dictated by the county. And
Okay,
city
yep.
ordinance, is my understanding there. So I think we're a little bit tied into that crossing.
It'll have to be lit and all of those things
Yeah,
until it
that's
goes above or below.
If it's a Three Rivers Trail and it's Hennepin County right away, they're gonna be the primary kind of controllers of what that any safety features that get implemented there, they would be
They have a little bit more influence on,
yeah, it's not our
Got
right
it.
of way to dictate.
And I can bring
really.
that up with
We can-
Marge Beard, our
Yep.
Rivers Commissioner, and
That's
Kevin
big.
Anderson for that matter.
We could bring
Big
up
safety
ideas,
concern.
but we don't have the authority to like install some sort of push crossing.
Right.
I'm sure the county would have a conversation or Three Rivers would have a conversation.
Good deal. Okay. Anything else on phase one? No?
That would be it on my part.
Perfect.
good job
I
to the
would-
parks and everybody that worked on this.
Motion.
Mayor and council, we do have a resolution supporting an application for a grant. I would note on our October 13th work session, we are hoping to present the 5-year financial management plan, which does put in some potential assumptions based on our current funding sources that we have within the financial management plan and some of our bonding opportunities that we're going to be having coming up. So I would anticipate some discussion related to this as we look at our financial future as the cost estimate.
Does it fit into the 5-year plan?
That's a great question. I haven't seen the
Find out.
draft yet. I asked for a portion of like 4.4 or 4.5 million budget. And so once I get the draft back here, so that's part of the question of how does it impact our tax rate? Since bonding for a project like this comes directly out of the general fund, so that's a big question. And we could look at doing some of our ARPA funds or even utilizing some of our gambling funds and things like that. So we do have some options.
What's the park dedication balance currently?
The last time.
I believe it's 2.7 million at this point, or 2.8.
We're projecting more than that based on, we just got the money from
Cook Lake and Wolcott.
Cook Lake, and, well, there are some other pieces, so we'll just have to kind of time it. I think our biggest question is whether or not to keep it in for the timing of everything else that we have issuance for, we'll likely issue in February. Will we feel comfortable with the number by then? We might not. So whatever that issuance is, if it's more than $2 million, it's likely worth a separate bond issuance for the cost of the issuance. So ideally, we like to package them all together because then we can save a bit on issuance costs. But if we're unsure, I'd prefer to not over bond.
Good, okay.
I'll also note we have a few donations for the park as well.
Yeah.
We had gone to the Northwest Area J.C.'s for $100,000 for the splash pad. And then Hamel Athletic Association actually came to us and donated $45,000
Yeah, thank
towards
you.
the park in general.
Thanks for mentioning that.
Well done.
That's huge. Okay, I will make a motion to accept the concept plans as presented and direct staff to apply for the Hennepin County Youth Sports Facility Grant for up to $300,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 9D is Cook Lake Highlands
Mayor,
update.
Council, just one quick clarification on the resolution.
Yeah.
On item 1, Michelle was inquiring the amount of responsibility for matching funds. Oh, it looks like we'd be responsible for everything else. Yes, that is correct. It is correct, sorry.
Okay.
So I can verify that that's.
You got everything? Okay, good deal.
Thank you.
No problem. 9D, Cook Lake Highlands update.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll provide a really brief update. I know Kendra is available if we have questions that I can't answer, but just an update on that project on Thursday. Pre-construction meeting was held. And on Friday, we received the letter of credit and park dedication fees. We got those on Friday. And so they began construction on Monday and have provided us with a stormwater agreement. It is to be executed by Monday. That would allow them to be within the 7 days. At this point, Kendra had spoken with Beth's team, and they were not anticipating needing an extension past the September 30th deadline that we had given them for all other documents. Staff anticipates that they will be able to at least get us documents, and as long as we're working on those, we feel that the intent would be met, if council is comfortable with that.
Works for me.
We're making progress. We're not quite there. We have at least one of the Met Council documents, and John is reviewing the final pieces that they've sent over. And Kendra, if do you have any additional comments, you can call me on my cell phone and I can put you out.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, I just have that question again on the off-site location of a lot of that fill is going down. Beck told Kevin, you and Public Works are taking care of that maintenance, or what's going to required to fix.
We're aware of some of the issues that you're referencing
Okay.
in that area, and have been working with the entities involved to
Okay.
provide adequate resolution.
I'm concerned in the spring, it's going to push up everything that was underneath that road, frost heaves, everything else. We won't see any repercussions until spring. Do we have any fallback on that, or is that all going to be absorbed by us? I know it's a public street.
We have documented it, and we would, it's hypothetical on what happens.
Yeah.
And so like, we have it well documented
Got it.
through a bunch of different entities, and so if we have problems and the individuals don't work with us, then we will review all means we have to address them. I can't tell you what that is at this point, but
Okay.
it's documented and we're aware of the situation.
Do we know how much longer they'll be hauling?
I think they're nearly complete of hauling us, if not complete at Cook Lake. So if they're bringing material from other, I'm not sure everything was coming from Cook Lake, but I think if you're referring to the Cook Lake site, I think they're nearly complete. But in Corcoran right now, there's a lot of development activity around us, and there's a lot of landowners that are willing to take dirt, so
There's a list and those
it
kind
will
of
be
things.
continue to be a conversation, I anticipate, with all the grading that's happening around us. And, there's landowners that are wanting to take it to improve their properties, and that's allowable through
Yep.
certain permits as well, so I don't wanna, so there's gonna be an interest and a conversation about trucks and grading, and, it's gonna be something that we have to keep an eye on, and our team takes great pride in the roads.
Yes, I know.
I can
I did no
guarantee that,
complaints there.
that we will do everything we can, and I can work with individuals if you have specific questions.
Is it something in the future, can we ask those questions in the future as far as off-site destinations for the access and those
I mean,
kind
I
of
think
things.
it's- I think I mean, if we don't control the we don't necessarily control their contract. I can check with the city attorney. I'm not aware that we have a stipulation of where
Okay.
we move the dirt. I don't know, maybe with a PUD, we could add something like that where you disclose it. I think it's a really big challenge to do that.
Yep,
And you
okay.
get the benefit of, someone who wants to add their argument of why you're, so it's a very convoluted and complicated conversation. But what we want to do is if people are doing that, we want them to follow the rules and we want to make sure things are safe. So
It's a
that's-
public street, it's just the amount of traffic this past, it's been over a week.
Yeah. And there's some
been
extra
just-
areas like Tesmer Road, we are posting 4-ton because of some developments that's happening
Yeah.
in Greenfield. I mean, those are our abilities to handle that.
Okay.
And so we rely on, eyes and ears. I mean, we don't have the staff to just be driving roads, so, we're, complaint-based, we catch a fair amount, but if people have concerns, call
Yep.
the city and we'll look into it and make sure things are done appropriately. That's the best information I can give, and it's an individual basis, and we take great pride in the roads, and beyond that, you can reach out to me on specifics.
Nope, I wanted to ask and put it on public record. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I think there's no action to take on that one. So I will propose we take a 5-minute recess here, then we'll come back, get to 9 or 10E, and then hammer through the rest of our stuff, which should be relatively quick. And then we'll be
On our way.
out of here in not too much longer. Take a 5-minute recess, back in 9:42.